in 5 years' time, where do you see Fantom? What's your long-term vision for the chain? So in 5 years' time, where do you want Fantom to be, and what's your long-term overall vision for where Fantom's headed?
Yeah, so over like 5 years on the technology side, I want to be able to like horizontally scale. So that means that I want to be able to like kind of expand, um, you know, allow the technology to be like scalable to like the level of like how the internet is, right? And so that could be like, for example, in the form of sharding, it could be in the form of like a few other mechanisms. But if we can get to like sort like that like ability to horizontally scale, then we won't have those sort of limitations on gas. We won't have those sorts of like limitations with the blockchain trilemma that we do currently have at the moment. So that would like allow us to dramatically get a lot more users. So we can get like 50 to 100 times the amount of users we have now, 50 to 100 times the amount of applications we have right now. That would be ideal. And also in 5 years' time, if we can completely replace the existing smart contract execution stack that we have right now with our own Fantom virtual machine, with our own way of reading and writing of data, instead of using like the Geth client, use a different client to kind of like interact with applications like above the stack. If we can like solve a lot of these technical problems and also have the security of the virtual machine, as I mentioned before, giving feedback to users if there is a bug in the execution or not, then we'll have a lot more safer and smarter smart contracts out there, and they'll run a lot more efficiently than they do at the moment on all chains. So that's kind of like my long-term vision, or at least like 5-year vision. It may take a little bit longer than that, but I want the Fantom ecosystem to start growing, as big as the internet has been.
Wow, that's a big vision, and that's exactly what we want to hear as Fantom holders. Technology aside, what's your vision for some potential applications of the Fantom chain? Maybe this is blockchain in general as well. It's not exclusive to Fantom, but what kind of applications that we're not seeing right now? Obviously, we're mainly DeFi driven. Are you seeing, or you've got in your sights for 5 years' time with Fantom?
Yeah, so I kind of use case for blockchains that I actually kind of explored a few years earlier that I haven't really seen take off on chain, but I think is a $1 billion opportunity, is the whole idea about group-based insurance. So this is like peer-to-peer insurance where in the traditional model of insurance, you have like people who pay premiums to like a big organization. The big organization has big buildings and big expenses and lots of employees and that sort of thing. And then the people on the other side, who are also the payers of the insurance, the subset of those that like put in claims, right? And we see a lot of issues around one, like people taking advantage of the claiming process, because your incentive when you're claiming insurance is to claim for as much as you can kind of get away with. And we've seen that a lot in all sorts of kind of insurance. And the second problem with the model is that you have a lot of inefficiencies where you have these big intermediaries that have a lot of like expenses. And so if you can kind of like replace the middleman with peer-to-peer insurance, or replace the middleman with kind of like a smart contract where people are kind of like accountable to one another, where there's transparency on claims, where you could have like, for example, like jury selection of like particular participants in the pool that get paid to kind of like evaluate people's claims and render a verdict as like, okay, this claim is legitimate, that claim is not legitimate, then you kind of save the moral hazard of people overclaiming for insurance. And so if you stop people from overclaiming because people are more accountable to one another, you have like lower cost of premiums. You don't have all the overheads of a big insurance company. And so in the end, that means that you have premiums that are lower for everybody on average. And in fact, with some of the pooled funds that happen like in the smart contract, you can even like DeFi farm with that. You can even take it further. You can put that into like very safe stablecoin pools. And so people can actually earn money on the insurance. And so in some cases, if people are not claiming enough or not making that many claims, you may actually make money from insurance. It's actually possible. So I think that's a huge idea that we haven't seen in blockchain in general, but that's something that I would like people to explore. I know a few people that are exploring it, but that's something that I think that hasn't taken off as like DeFi has or NFTs have. But I think that's a big growth area. So in terms of like an area that like a lot of people are not talking about, this is an area that I'm quite bullish on myself.
So if we want exposure to this narrative, obviously it's very early in the scheme of like how big this could be. But if we wanted to get some exposure, learn a bit more about it, are there any projects right now that you think are good that are aiming to do this that we could research?
There've been like a few more like non-blockchain companies that try to do peer-to-peer insurance. Like one that comes to mind is this project called a few years ago they launched. They're called Lemonade, and I think they're US based and they're backed by like some big VCs like Sequoia and others. There've been like a few others in a few different countries. I mean, there was like one that was starting to get pretty big in Germany, but none of them have like really taken off. And I haven't seen any like blockchain based like insurance ones like actually launched. And when I mean insurance, I don't mean like insurance for like DeFi. I mean like more general insurance. So replacing, your insurance company that does like auto insurance or house insurance or home and contents insurance with like a pool of individuals where it's your friends and your family. And so you're incentivized not to kind of screw them over because you're transparent to them and they're transparent to you.